Welcome to That's What Shakespeare Said. This is the second in a series where I review some of the more popular idioms, which are cultural sayings that Shakespeare either coined himself, which means he invented them, or that he made popular in one of his works. So let's get going with the second round. So our seventh idiom is dead as a doornail, and that came from Henry VI, Part 2. Here is the quote. Jack Cade says, "Look on me well, I have eat no meat these 5 days, yet come thou and thy 5 men, and if I do not leave you all as dead as a doornail, I pray God I may never eat grass more." Now this saying actually was popularized or came about 200 years before Shakespeare used it, but his use of it in the play made it much more popular. And it simply means really dead, totally devoid of life, finished, unusable. And what they think this came from is a practice of nailing back in the day, nailing nails through wood and then bending the tip down so that it couldn't be pulled out. And then, of course, that ruined the nail because you can't pull it out and reuse it. So an example of this, when my hamster was run over by the garbage truck, it was dead as a doornail. Idiom number 8 comes from Henry IV, Part 2, and it's this: eaten me out of house and home. So this is another example of a phrase that was popular before Shakespeare, but it became so much more popular after he used it that it's often said that he made it up. But the idea of house and home, meaning where you live, goes back to the 1100s. So this quote from the play: "It is more than for some, my lord, it is for all I have. He hath eaten me out of house and home, he hath put all my substance into that fat belly of his, but I will have some of it out again, or I will ride thee o' nights like the mare." So this simply means it's an exaggeration that someone is eating so much at your house that it's kind of hitting your budget pretty hard. So an example of this: as long as parents raise teenagers, they will use the phrase, "they are eating me out of house and home." Very common when you have kids growing up in your house and they start raiding the cupboards. Idiom number 9, forever and a day, and that comes from As You Like It. Here's the quote. Rosalind says, "Now tell me how long you would have her after you have possessed her." And Orlando responds, "Forever and a day." That simply means something taking up a lot of time, whether good or bad. It's like indefinite, it's ongoing. It's meant to be dramatic because if you have forever, you can't add a day. It's like saying infinity plus 1. It just doesn't make any sense. But it's this idea of ongoing and never stopping, right? So an example: prom was so magical, I wanted it to last forever and a day. Said no one ever. So you get the idea. Idiom number 10 is full circle from King Lear. And here's the quote. Edmund says this: "Thou hast spoken right, 'tis true, the wheel is come full circle, I am here." So to come full circle is that idea when something or someone has returned to its starting point. It's like completed a cycle. So an example would be, when he started teaching at the alma mater that he loved, he felt he had come full circle. So it's this idea of whenever you've gone through something in your life and you kind of return back to the starting point, whether you left your hometown and you end up moving back there, or you had a coach that you loved and then you end up being a coach and the kids love you. So anytime you kind of are back where you started, you have come full circle. Idiom number 11 is "the game is afoot," and that comes from Henry V. Here's the quote. "I see you stand like greyhounds in the slips, straining upon the start. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit, and upon this charge cry, God for Harry, England, and St. George." Now, this saying is probably best known because it was used by Sherlock Holmes, even though it was only used one time in the whole book series. It's quoted as though it came from him, and I think the newer version with Benedict Cumberbatch uses it a few times. It's basically, the meaning is it's a situation or a starting point, maybe a strategy that's starting to play out. And we also might say something like "game on," That's the idea. So here's your example. When the referee blew the whistle and they tried to use a sneak play, we knew that the game was afoot. It was going to be a challenging match. So our last idiom in this video, number 12, is give the devil his due, and that is from Henry IV, Part 1. The constable says this: I will cap that proverb with, there is flattery in friendship. Orleans says, and I will take up that with, give the devil his due. The idea is this is a figurative saying. Obviously, you're not going to be paying the devil anything, but it means to give back what you owed or to pay up, to be forced to capitulate, right? Either money or favors. It's this idea where you're going to have to give your foe repayment or proper credit because you've been one-upped. An example would be like, the police have promised that as soon as this criminal is apprehended, he will give the devil his due and make amends to everyone that he wronged. So that's the idea of having to pay back. So thanks for checking out the second video in this series. It would be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. Here are the rest of the videos in That's What Shakespeare Said, plus a couple other interesting playlists you might find of interest to take a look at. Thanks for subscribing, thanks for sharing, and thanks for liking. Until next time.